Greetings, and welcome back to Rebirth the Body channel, where we are discussing everything mental health. And today we are discussing transgenerational trauma. Now, transgenerational trauma is is a proven theory that generations can experience anxiety, depression, PTSD that is passed down from generation to generation through behaviors, patterns, and trauma. Now, this was a study done earlier this year. Now, this study explored the effects of transgenerational trauma on Holocaust survivors, the displacement of American Indians, and slavery of African Americans. Now, it was found that there were mixed results on how trauma is manifested. Many studies uncovered higher rates of anxiety, depression, and PTSD in trauma survivors and their children. Now, when parents live under oppressive circumstances, for example, they can develop survival messages that may be taught and passed on from generation to the next. Now, while these messages may have been helpful to protect earlier generations, they can cause later generations to have a fearful and distrustful outlook on life. Now, this is when we're talking about breaking generational curses, looking and acknowledging certain behavior patterns our family members have, seeing that, understanding if it's healthy or unhealthy, and understanding that just because I see this behavior done, I don't have to do it. I literally get to change and renew my identity. Now, a lot of the times, how we view ourselves is connected to our family members, is connected to our parents, our siblings, is connected to how they treated us, right? And so a lot of times we are left feeling having this low self-image, this low self-esteem, dealing with a lot of aspects of depression and anxiety, and not seeing how closely that is connected to the behaviors of our family members. So this is the example. A lot of the times when we see unhealthy communication styles. For example, the ideal of screaming and yelling and cursing to solve our problems. We find that if we look in our families, we can see that that was a behavior that was passed down from one family member to the next. A lot of the parenting styles is passed down from one generation to the next. So it's up to us to acknowledge where the behavior is unhealthy and implement new styles and new behavior patterns, okay? So what we did also see is a study done, now I thought this was really cool. A study done by Mark Woven. And in this study, he found that literally telling the family secrets was a way to break generational curses. Now, this one is really deep, and I find it's really deep for the African American community, which is only the only community I can speak of personally, right? When we're talking about my own personal experiences, that's the only narrative I can give. And what I find is that in the Black family, the family rapists are protected. The drug addicts, the drug abusers, the illness, the disease, everything is hush hush, right? When I look at how we have dealt with abuse in the family, it's quite outrageous. And what I find is that this typically happens often in the Black community and in Black families, where we know the uncle that we can't leave the kids with, that the cousins don't need to go by, right? However, no one says it out loud. So I found this research really fascinating because it discussed how when we release this information, right, when we share it with our children, we tell our children the terrible things that's happening in the family. We tell our children about your uncle rapes kids, your uncles touch little girls. When we tell the family secrets, we are breaking generational curses. When we talk about the disease that we're cooking up in the food, when we talk about how harmful some of our behaviors and practices are, how we have ineffective communications, how we overindulge in alcohol and drugs, when we discuss these behaviors, we're able to break curses. And I thought that was really fascinating, because oftentimes we're doing the exact opposite of that, and we're taught the exact opposite of that. We were taught, no, we're not going to talk about that. Thank you for telling me, I'm going to handle it, but you keep quiet. This information doesn't leave us. It was kept a secret when you were victimized. So we have to look at that and be able to challenge those behaviors and challenge those practices within our own self. This doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go approach the rapists in your family. Although I do feel like these people should be called out. They're often protected in the family. This more so is discussing the steps that you can take in your own life cycle to address generational trauma and breaking those curses, and also not passing them down to your kids. This is the reason why we're having the conversation. If we don't have the conversation, we continue to pass on the behavior and the patterns, and it continues, right? And we continue to live in fear, and we continue to live in depression and anxiety. We're going to continue to live in it unless we address this. Okay, so I thought this was really interesting, pretty fascinating. So we're discussing the coping skills. This article talked about going back and asking our parents, how did you deal with these stressors in life? What were some of the practices you had? And making some connections and correlations from there. Not all of us have the opportunity to connect with our parents on those levels, but we can at least make some forms of judgment on our own, right? I can acknowledge, oh, wow, my mom didn't have the hard and tough conversations with me. We didn't talk about abuse. We didn't talk about sex. We didn't talk about the hard stuff. So acknowledging, okay, I seen that didn't happen in this relationship. What can I do as a parent moving forward to break those generational curses? So we're having the conversations. We're talking about coping skills. We're noticing and acknowledging those repeated behaviors. What behaviors do my family display that I can acknowledge is unhealthy? And sometimes it's as simple as lack of exercise, right? My whole family is overweight. What can I do not to be overweight, right? My whole family abuses drugs. What can I do tonight? In my family, there's tons of drug abuse, tons of alcoholism, depression, anxiety, unresolved mental health disorders. So we and I have to acknowledge that, take a step back and see, what can I do not to continue those patterns, behaviors, and attitudes? So we're noticing any of these patterns and attitudes, these narratives. We understanding what are the narratives of our story, of our families. We need to know. I know the type of problems that my family has that are deep rooted. Right? Not only did I see it in the great aunts, but we can see it in their great grandchildren. The same problems, the same disorders. Okay. So we're talking through these areas with a trusted friend, family member, or a therapist. Some of us have to resort to a therapist because we haven't quite found our tribe yet, right? And it will happen. The more you're on the journey, the more you're doing the work, your tribe develops, it comes, right? So we're doing that. We're doing the work. We're working through the process, and we're making sure that we remember that everything we need is already inside of us, right? And I know that's so cliche to say, but it's true, right? It's very true. So know that you can recreate the narrative, right? You can recreate the narrative for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, the ones to come after you. You hold so much power to address these generational curses. So please know, just because transgenerational trauma is a real thing. I need for us to acknowledge that it is a real thing. It is scientifically proven. It's not something, a lot of times people think, oh, you're just saying that. Those are your feelings. Well, it has been proven. The data says it. So since we know that it's real, we must acknowledge it, and we must use these things to our advantage to proceed, to do better, right? To really tap into our higher selves, to feel more free, more light, and be more productive, right? Okay. Keep loving you. Keep having a beautiful, beautiful journey. You are in the right place at the right time. You are on divine timing. You always win. Prosperity is chasing you. Money is falling on you. Your blessings are infinite. There are miracles that have your name on it. They got miracles with your name on it. Can you imagine? Have a beautiful day, loved one.